Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel T-Spot. In this video,
this is a breakdown and analysis of the Rule of 500, Episode 7 from 1923. In the season's final episode, Teonna's father rides his horse in search of Azashi's body. It is unclear whether Azashi was his mother or his in-laws, but that is irrelevant. Because of the tracks outside, he believes that law enforcement officers killed her. Since lawmen and thieves typically do not shoe their horses, the government must have been to blame. Pete, Hank's son, enters the frame at this point with the information about Teonna's escape. Runs, Pete's horse, tells him to go back but take a different route to avoid detection. After burying Azashi and retrieving his belongings, he will catch up to Pete. Pete is confronted later that day by priests from the Teonna school, who forcefully detain him. They have plans to take him to the school if he refuses to cooperate. Thus, a priest stays with him for a while. The sheep are pursued by the other two. Herds tracks because Pete said that he was herding sheep that way out there. Peter and the priest get into a heated argument as the priest continues to despise the natives and Pete responds by changing his beliefs. When Run's horse appears, the priest is scalped because the priest can no longer take it and is about to kill Pete. He saved the day by following Pete's course here, as we saw him do earlier. Before running off on his horse and leading it to Teonna and Hank, he kills the priest and eats his soul, which I take to be his heart. Teonna is discovered by the other two priests who pursue her. They both have the ability to shoot Hank, who is unseen. Hank puts his rifle down to carry the injured Teonna, thinking that both priests are dead. However, it turns out that one priest is still alive. He shoots Hank after grabbing his rifle. He shoots Teonna as he gets closer. Then, to reload, he takes a shell from Hank's body, but Teonna survives by hitting him in the head with a big rock. Hank, on the other hand, doesn't seem to have the same luck. I was sad to see Hank pass away, just as I was sad to see Luca pass away on his towboat. This was the most important and exciting part of the episode. Although they weren't particularly significant characters, they helped Teonna and Spencer in times of need. Fortunately, Teonna's father is already on his way to her, so let's hope she is. Okay, but psychologically, I don't think she'll ever overcome this much pain. Banner is detained outside of the house Donald gave him, and the mischievous sheepherder finds out that Jacob escaped the ambush. After the sheriff and his deputies make the arrest, Jacob, Jack, and their men inform Jack. He was fortunate to survive too. Various attacks, but a third time will not be as fortunate. That implies a confession, according to Sheriff McDowell, so it must be that, right? The justice system will remove Banner permanently. No, not right away. Donald, who isn't thinking clearly, hears from Clyde, a new livestock agent, that Banner has been arrested. Donald believes Banner's arrest was a mistake. If they wanted to get rid of him, they should have killed him because Donald has the power to free him. He contacts Chadwick Penton, his attorney, who goes to Banner's jail cell and tells him not to say anything until his arraignment the following day. Chadwick will meet Rollins outside of his chambers to ensure that the judge understands how important Banner is to Donald's operations, and Donald is pleased to learn that Judge Rollins will handle the case. Despite the fact that this is a murder case, Rollins will set bail, allowing Banner to leave at least temporarily. Chadwick is also asked to look after Banner. Of the two prostitutes who were present at his residence when he was detained, Donald also wants to handle this on his own. As Donald reveals his rebellious side, we quickly find out why. He enjoys watching one of the hookers spank the other with a belt because he is a sadistic frick. Kara and Elizabeth, on the other hand, are eagerly awaiting the return of Jack and Jacob back at the Yellowstone. As an alternative to keeping a journal, Kara writes letters to Spencer and encourages Elizabeth to try writing, but that's not Kara's style. To distract herself from the situation, she would rather engage in something like cake baking. As a result, Kara shows her how to bake a cake, and the men show up just as the ladies are baking. Jack is reading the newspaper later on while they are having cake and drinks at the dinner table. He and his uncle Jacob begin a political discussion as a result of this. They learn about a new Washington commission to regulate mining, which will be led by mining company executives like Donald. And Jacob continues, "Son, that ought to tell you everything you need to know about politics." End of quote, because Jacob is a cattleman in charge of regulating cattle. Jack points out that Jacob is not any different. Donald is doing the same thing that he is doing. Jacob responds with a lengthy monologue about a scientific study that demonstrates that when a tribe has a population of more than 500 people, problems begin to arise and that the strongest people exploit the weakest if there is no government. Quote, "Government is man's attempt to control human behavior, but it is impossible to control. We are what it is. The kind of people who would use the government to benefit themselves at your expense will eventually do so." End of quote. Jacob's argument in relation to his family is that Donald and others like him will always use government agencies to control others. Therefore, why shouldn't we follow suit and make use of those organizations to our advantage? When Jack inquires about right and wrong, Jacob responds that neither exist. There is only what is best for your family and this ranch. From James Dutton in 1883 to John Dutton today, this conversation perfectly encapsulates the mindset of the entire Dutton family. Every Dutton we've met places a higher value on the well-being of their own families and ranch than on religion, general ethical principles, laws, patriotism, or anything else you can think of. Those aren't taken into account. They only see them as tools that they can use to protect their ranch and family with all their might. Last but not least, Spencer and Alex are picked up in Italy, where they can book a flight to the United States. Additionally, they will depart in a few days. When they meet the man Alex was supposed to marry, the now married couple is enjoying some of the local treats and each other's company. In Sicily, things are about to get very awkward. As for the second half of the season, they're taking their sweet time, aren't they? After the mid-season break, we have seen very little plot development with only one episode remaining, which is understandable for some viewers. I haven't been too bothered by it. This more realistic slow burn style usually wins my vote. Spencer, for instance, is taking a very long time to return to the United States. They could have jumped back in time if they wanted, but the way they're doing it shows how slow travel used to be back then. The same holds true for Teonna and her plot. She is on the run, and I believe she began her journey in North Dakota. Additionally, you should not resolve this escape too quickly because doing so would be unrealistic from a pacing perspective. Having said that, despite the fact that I can see the logic in how they've structured Part 2, I have to admit that I haven't enjoyed it as much as I did Part 1. Enjoying these narrative choices and understanding why they were made are two different things. Also, definitely, I actually like the show, yet short of what I did after the initial 4 episodes. With only about 2 hours of screen time remaining in the season, I figured we would get more plot development than we did, which is why this week's installment was much less hectic than I anticipated. What did you think of the 7th episode?
Let us know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video. Thank you for watching. See you soon.